Hey everybody, welcome to Studio 64. My name's David. I've been searching the interzones for more science, space and tech news to share with you. And we've got three stories here today. We've got alien head figurine made 7,000 years ago, unearthed at ancient site. And we have NASA has found something technological in Mars, and it could be the future of mankind. That should be very interesting. And of course, from the I'm not surprised at all department, Windows 11 update fails to install, performance and gaming issues. Yes, we'll get to that story very shortly. Yeah, sorry about the delay in uploading content recently. I've had quite a few things on, but the new year is looking absolutely fantastic, and we shall forge ahead uninterrupted. All right, so we have here alien head figurine made 7,000 years ago, unearthed at ancient site. And there we have the artifacts were discovered on a dig in Kuwait, believe it or not, of all places. Well, doesn't surprise me, seeing as, you know, that's sort of one of the oldest parts of the world for civilization. It's quite fascinating. Absolutely amazing. God, I love all science. I'm not a scientist myself. I just love all science, space and tech news and sharing it with everybody. And if there are any archaeologists, aerospace engineers or astronomers or, you know, technical people out there when it comes to, you know, computing or other areas of technology, please feel free to comment, because we'd love to hear from you. It would be fantastic. Thank you. A team of archaeologists have discovered a series of mysterious-looking statues and masks which features that bear striking resemblance to aliens. It's interesting. Yes, with stretched out heads, flat noses and large eyes, these ancient objects look like what you'd expect to come from the leading protagonist in a science fiction film. Now, as usual, I'll leave the link to the main article below the video, so you can pop in, check out these embedded links, go for a bit of a deeper dive if you want. Makes for an interesting read beyond the main article. Yes, the joint dig was from Kuwait's National Council of Arts and Letters, the NNCAL, and the Polish Centre of Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw. Yes, the excavation took place at the Bada 1 site in Kuwait, a focal point for archaeological investigations into what life was like in Stone Age Arabia. Now, the unearthing of these objects gives experts new insight into the Ubaid culture, a period in Arabia which lasted from 5,500 to 4,000 BC. That's interesting. As I say, I love history. It's like I'm a fan of antiques, not because of, you know, antiques so much, but the history that goes along with them. I remember there was a teddy bear, and people think, oh, teddy bear, well, that's just, you know, old teddy bears, old scruffy. But what it came with it was a little letter and a photo from the person. I think it was their grandparent when they were just a child, and that photo contained a picture of former British Prime Minister from World War II, Battle of Britain leader Winston Churchill, and he gave it to this person's grandmother when they were a child. So it has a sense of history about it. And apparently he got one of his staff to purchase it for him as he was going to visit these friends of him, you know, and his family were friends of himself. And he got one of his staff to purchase it with him, and he had it in a bunker during the Blitz, and something along those lines. So it's got this history of being a participant in World War II, this teddy bear, and then he got the bear out, you know, surviving air raids and everything, and gave it to this child, who then became the grandparent of this particular person who had it. So again, going back to this, it's the sense of history, and I wonder what day-to-day life was like for people in the Ubaid culture. Fascinating. They go through similar things that we do, you know, heartache and happiness, and, you know, did the husband take off down to the pub on Friday night to get away from the wife, and the wife would get together with the girlfriends and start bitching about the husband or something, you know, does those sort of things exactly the same? It's fascinating to me. However, it isn't the first time that we have thought ancient artifacts pointed us to extraterrestrial life, and earlier this year a number of monoliths appeared in the US. Done videos on it on this channel. Please check it out. Revelations included finding out the scale and size and of types of pottery produced in the region, which at its peak ranged from Anatolia to Mesopotamia. That's the ancient civilization I was thinking of before. Again, not being a scientist, there's that many things rattling around in my scone that Mesopotamia is like, one of the original places of human civilization. Similar items have been found in previous digs at Mesopotamia. However, it is a first for the Gulf region. Yes, this bizarre-looking mask could be more than 7,000 years old. Check it out. This is really interesting. And I wonder, because everybody says, oh, it looks like an alien. Look at the eyes and the way the heads are there. Maybe it's melted. Maybe, while it was being, I always love Occam's razor with this sort of stuff, and it's always quite funny. We always think it's, it quite possibly could be an alien visitor. But I also like to think of the comedic alternative where the sculptor, when they were putting it together, had one too many and was getting frustrated and, gave it a smack because he couldn't get it right. And it just ended up like that. So everyone thinks it's an alien. But, the sculptor had just had one too many drinks. But it is fascinating, though, isn't it? I think I should do a video on the Dogons. If you're unfamiliar with the Dogons, they're a tribe in Africa that basically made costumes, and they have these little, tribal festivities and things like that, and their whole culture is based on what we would consider alien visitors. I should do a video on it because it's quite fascinating from, excuse me, from an biological point of view, from an archaeology point of view, and an anthropological point of view. It's absolutely fascinating. I've got to do one on the Dogon culture, but this is an interesting image, isn't it? It's fascinating. And it says Ubaid pottery was also found at the Bara 1 site by researchers. Look at that. I mean, this is thousands of years old, and look at the intricacy and how beautiful it is. Yeah. Wonderful designs. You think of all the cultures all over the planet, and the way they came up with these designs. Different cultures, from Australian indigenous culture to Native American to the cave paintings in France, and all over the world. And then you see something like this in the Ubaid culture in the Middle East. It just absolutely amazes me. And this one here is the joint Kuwait-Polish team had been excavating one of the Arabian Peninsula's oldest settlements, with occupation lasting from around 5500 to 4900 BC. Look at that. Incredible, isn't it? Yeah. I wonder if it was for storing tea or oil or something like that, Probably marijuana. I often wonder why marijuana is called pot. And I'm wondering if that's the reason, because this is where it was stored. Fascinating. Now, archaeologist Piotr Belinsky was one of the directors of Bara 1, confirmed the breakthrough in a statement. He said its presence raises intriguing questions about its purpose and the symbolic or possibly ritualistic value it held for the people of this ancient community. Or, as I say, the pots could be everyday things. This could be rich, could be the early equivalent of a selfie. And again, probably had one too many drinks and decided to make their own selfie, and this is how it turned out. It's fascinating. Imagine them got the beer goggles on and having a bit of a squint. Well, is that what I look like? And it's probably not the head, it's probably your hair. You never know. Yes, these findings, alongside scientific analyses by Professor Anna Smogor-Zufska, sorry if I've mispronounced your name there, Anna, confirmed Bara 1 is the oldest pottery production site in the Gulf. Now, Bara 1 also opened the door to learning more about the region's environmental past by doing archaeobotanical analyses. Cross-discipline. Love science that's cross-discipline. When you're talking about planetary science and working with aerospace engineers so they can develop vehicles that can withstand extraterrestrial environments. It's fascinating to me. And working with geologists too, because if the spacecraft's too big, it could fall through the if it's it depends on what surface it's landing on and that sort of stuff. It's just fascinating to me. Astrogeology is amazing. These tests are explained through organic remains embedded in the new type of clay discovered at Bara 1, known as coarse redware. Now, specialist Professor Aldona Mueller-Bieniek and Dr. Roman Hovspian, I really have to brush up on my pronunciations of some of these, examined fragments of clay for traces of plants that helped identify organic matter from the Arabian Stone Age. Now, Dr. Hovspian explains the results. Early analysis have revealed traces of wild plants, particularly reed, within the locally produced pottery, while cultivated plant remains, including cereals such as barley and wheat, have been found in the imported Ubaid ware. Now, the archaeology team at Bara 1 hopes to continue the momentum of its 2024 season, which is now concluded, and discover more objects to shed further light on the Ubaid culture. Absolutely amazing. It's incredible, isn't it? Now, I think half the stuff we get now is that bloody disposable. I don't think in, 7 or 8,000 years' time, half our stuff won't. The only thing that's going to be surviving is a couple of bloody Big Macs or a couple of cheeseburgers, and the rest of our bloody pottery will just disintegrate. Fascinating. After killing all the fish, probably because it's plastic. But yes, this is amazing. Look at those intricate designs. Do we still see that stuff on common? It's like if this was just for common everyday use. Is there stuff do we really focus on that these days, or it all just has to be see-through when it's in the fridge? Just find it amazing. And that, as I said, that's got to be one of the worst selfies I've ever seen. I think it reminds me of my driver's license photo. That's a little bit scary. Alrighty, that was absolutely amazing, wasn't it? Yes, alien head figurine made 7,000 years ago unearthed at an ancient site. That's absolutely fascinating. Well, let's move on to a bit of space news from archaeology. And from the Diary 24, we've got NASA has found something technological in Mars, and it could be the future of mankind. This should be very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And there's obviously an artist's rendition of a colony on Mars. Fascinating. NASA's obsession with Mars seems to be getting worse every time. I say this because NASA has discovered something technological on Mars, and this exciting discovery is about extracting energy from the red planet. There has been information about Mars being a potential planet to provide life like Earth, but now it seems we can look into energy sustainability from planet Mars. And again, there are the links embedded, so check the links to the articles below. Then you can go in and read more if you like. Now, according to a recent study, Mars winds are powerful enough to provide electricity that can sustain missions there despite the planet's scant air. Because of Mars' extremely thin atmosphere, which is only around 1% of Earth's density, its winds only have 1% of Earth's force. And it is because of that scientists have long rejected wind energy as a practical mission energy source. Unless you speak to some very cunning aerospace engineers and design the fan blades and all that sort of stuff. Again, not a scientist, but or not an aerospace engineer, but I'm sure somebody out there who knows about this sort of stuff would be able to come up with something. It's again, it's interesting. I'll under the link to this video, I'll pop a couple of little videos I put in, being my normal enthusiastic self about mankind going to Mars and what would possibly happen if we encountered aliens there. And the other video was about 300 years on Mars and what we've done to it. Again, it's all fiction, but it's all unfortunately would probably be closer to the mark. Yes, Windows. Jesus. Don't have Windows on Mars, for God's sake. And I ain't talking about Windows in the little habitats. I'm talking about this bloody Windows, for God's sake. Take Linux to Mars, for God's sake. Wind turbines on Mars, an unexpected fix for a power issue. As the world is seeking power and energy solutions, Mars was definitely not a planet that we thought would be an option, considering the cons that Mars has. Its potential levels are low, however, recent studies seem to contradict that. Mars could supply energy through wind turbines despite Mars's low pressure when it comes to wind supply. Consistent weaker winds can help generate energy. Now, this intriguing discovery could solve the human energy and power problems that we've been facing and are still facing today. Wind turbines could offer a steady power source, enabling long-term settlement, in contrast to solar panels, which are constrained during dust storms and the Martian night. These kinds of innovations literally change our lives as a global community and make it better in the long run. Though I still think we could have some solar panels, and I think in conjunction with wind energy on Mars would be very, very interesting. And once we get the technology, we can drill down and get hold, because I've done videos on this. The theory is there's a very large body of water below the surface of Mars, and though it is deep, We don't quite have the technology yet, but look at the core drilling we do, particularly in Antarctica. So if we can get down to those sort of levels on Mars, we'll definitely have a solution for our water shortage problem. And that will help us out. Plus these, I think the wind and solar could make a big difference again. I think we need the input of some aerospace engineers to solve this issue for us. Now, having said that, there are challenges that come with these kinds of sophisticated inventions and innovations. Now, Victoria Hartwig, a research scientist at NASA Ames Research Center in Mountain View, California, told Space.com that the fact that even strong winds don't carry much force is one of the main obstacles to wind energy on Mars. Wind energy needs strength and force, so we do not know how that can be fixed or work. Well, there's also the possibility of nuclear, though how we get nuclear up there, as I said, is again something for the aerospace engineers. From Earth to Mars, the potential of impact on NASA's innovations on Earth. Now, perhaps you are like me and wondering what on Earth NASA wants to implement with this energy supply concept from Mars. But here's how it will impact the Earth. Technologies initially created for Earth save the foundation for NASA's investigation of wind turbines for Mars missions, serve I should say. Now, for terrestrial uses, such as in remote industrial sites and polar regions, advanced turbine designs that could function under harsh conditions were initially tested. Now, these designs' versatility is demonstrated by their use on Mars, which also highlights how space exploration continues to help Earth's energy sectors. Wind energy might have significant functions that other power sources do not if it turns out to be beneficial on the red planet. Dust storms, for example, can make solar power ineffective, and its energy output fluctuates during the day, seasons, and latitudes. And hopefully those storms aren't too big to take out the wind turbines. So we've also got to think of that too. It's interesting. Yeah, so this is the other thing I was looking at just here, about, you know, how these technologies help us on Earth. I mean, I did a video on and provided the list of the technologies that have been developed by the space program that help us every single day. And everyone goes, well, so what about the space program? Who needs it? And, you know, there's whole bunches of stuff. I mean, you couldn't even take a selfie and use your phone camera without space technology, because it was space technology that helped adapt those little micro cameras. You know, just for one example. You know, plus all the medical uses. Yeah. So, what does this mean for human life? Could humanity have a second home? Now, if energy can be extracted from Mars and benefit the Earth, then it means this technological progress is more than just about wind power and energy, but is a door to space colonization. It brings us close to the question and concern: can human beings actually consider making planet Mars a second home, or can we have multi-planetary homes? Now, although the wind turbine has not yet reached Mars, Bubenheim, a senior research scientist at NASA's Ames Research Center, says NASA is using the data and information generated by the collaboration, I can't even speak today, between NPS and other government agencies for upcoming Mars missions. Additionally, because of more recent NASA missions, additional data regarding the Mars service has been produced. That's interesting. So using wind turbines on Mars. It's interesting. I did a video too on Titan, Saturn's moon, which could be very interesting for colonization, as we could use the methane as an energy source. That's interesting too. Check that video out. Yes, and it just, as I said, it just blows me away that some of the moons of the gas giants like Uranus and Neptune and Saturn have subsurface oceans. So that's, you know, that to me, I can't wait for that. I've done a number of videos on the subject, and I just think it's absolutely awesome. You know, because of the, we were told when I was growing up that you had to be in the Goldilocks zone for a planet, right? So that was not too hot, not too cold, where planet Earth is, not too far from the sun, not too close to it. Now we're discovering things like tidal energy. You know how the moon affects our tides here on Earth? Well, a similar thing happens around these gas giants, where you've got these little moons, and because of, you know, gravity and squeezing and contracting of the little moon, it's enough to generate heat. and that can keep water warm. And if the water's warm enough, there could be life in it. It's quite, as I said, it's quite interesting. Again, if there are any astronomers out there, astrogeologists, planetary science people, please feel free to comment, because I'd love to hear from you. All right, well, let's move on to one of the most entertaining things that I've used in my life. And for the last 39 years, I think I used Windows 1.1. And now we've got Windows 11. We're still having issues with it. It's fascinating, isn't it? Yes, Windows 11 KB5048667 update install fails, performance, gaming issues, and Windows 11 24H2 is affected. Why am I not surprised? I mean, this is what blows me away. We've had Windows 11 now for 3 years, and these issues are still there. If it was 6 months to a year, I could get it. But you've got to understand that on, I think it's the 14th of October in 2025, Windows 10, no more, no good, no more updates unless you pay for them. And apparently it doubles each year when you pay for these updates. So you've basically got two alternatives. You fork out for a new machine, or if your machine's only a few years old but doesn't run Windows 11, and particularly if you're a gamer, what do? Well, there's two possible solutions to say. Fork out for a new gaming machine, or alternatively, here's another thought. Upgrade your current PC using Linux and go and buy an Xbox. So, that might work for some people. But let's have a look and see what's going on here. Yes, Windows 11 KB5048667 update is turning out to be a disaster for some people, and we can confirm that there's an issue where the update could fail to install. It's also making some PCs run slower than usual, and we think it's related to a bug with the CPU scheduler in the Windows 11 Patch Tuesday. Yes, I've experienced this myself with one of my experimental laptops. When I updated to Windows 11, it does run not very fast. Which, again, Occam's razor says it's just a bug, but then you can understand why the conspiracy theorists are going, Microsoft just wants me to buy a new computer. That's what it's about. Again, that could possibly do it as well, but you just never know. But it's so frustrating to have, you get a bug fix that causes more problems because the bug fix has got more bugs than the operating system, which is very scary. Dozens and more users are reaching out to me, which would be Mayank Parmar, yes, with complaints of Windows 11 KB5048667 update installation issues. In some cases, it's also causing severe performance issues. First, let's talk about the installation issues with Windows 11 24H2 December 2024 Patch Tuesday. And then I'll talk more about the performance issues. Yes, it's very interesting. As I say, you can see a lot of people holding on to Windows 10 and just paying for the updates. And as they get more expensive, they won't. And hopefully by then the bugs will have been knocked out of Windows 11. But in October, November, I think it's November of next year, it will be 4 years since Windows 11 came out. And so if you wait 12 months and just pay the 1 year of service pack support and everything else, and then hopefully the bugs will be knocked out of the hardware and the software to a point where it'll be worth buying a Windows 11 machine in 2026. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, according to reports received by Windows Latest and confirmed in our tests in a virtual machine, Windows Update fails with error 0x800F081F when installing the KB5048667 update. One user explained the patch is also very slow to start, with the message downloading 0% displayed for a long time. Yeah, that can be extremely frustrating. Fascinating. I have a fast internet connection, then it then starts installing but fails at 100%. I was instructed by the Windows Update troubleshooter to make this problem report. It found a problem and said it had been corrected, but apparently not. So far, unfortunately, one of the affected users noted. I noticed that with a machine I was working on for a job I did probably 6 months ago, actually 12 months ago, it'd be last Christmas. And this machine would not install Windows 11, and then eventually it did, and doing an upgrade, and then it had issues with updates after that. I'd have to it would then backtrack and uninstall the update, and then come to me and say, "Oh, there's an update. Do you want to do it?" No. And then you'd have to wait for a while until the update was fixed. It was just frustrating. Our friends with MacBook have also reported running into installation error like 0x80070302 when they try to install the Windows 11 24H2 patch on M3 using Parallels. Yeah, I can understand why they're doing that. So they obviously have access to Windows-based software, but I'm still very much a Linux fan. Again, if you're a gamer, I understand why you wouldn't want to use Linux. I get that. It's not quite there yet. Get yourself an Xbox. I think you'll be very, very surprised. This sounds like I'm putting down Linux, but from a user's point of view, from somebody who's not, say you're not au fait with computers, you switch it on and there's the operating system, you either got Mac or Windows, you kind of could look at, say, Linux as an operating system is kind of like a poor man's Mac. Because they the Linux and the Mac share kind of sort of similar origins. It's really interesting. I mean, they originally come from the Unix operating system, so obviously they went off on their own path. But you'll find that if you sit down and use a machine that's loaded with Linux, you'll find it's very similar to the Mac. You can't run Mac programs, but it's got its own suite of software that comes with it. So it's interesting, and you can fire up a boot disk, make a boot disk with Linux, and then make that boot disk with Linux, and you can fire up your PC, play with Linux, and check it out. And it doesn't affect your hard drive. So it's definitely worth something worth looking at. Yes, I previously reported this under an earlier update, but I'm still getting the same error when trying to install the latest Windows 11 24H2 update for ARM64 they added. All the updates failed on my PC, even KB504670 got stuck at 40%. Another user told Windows Latest. KB50486667 will not install for me, remains pending restart. Some of the folks tried manual installations and reinstall of Windows, but nothing worked. In some cases, we also discovered the Windows update could take longer than usual to download or even install a patch only to fail at the last moment. This, as I say, to me is particularly frustrating. Okay, 3 years Windows 11's been around and we're still experiencing these issues? No. I mean, Linux isn't perfect. It still has its problems. But, it's just, as I say, you don't see any of the major issues like this with a Linux device. Again, I understand that things have to move forward and that upgrading to Windows 11 is something that the majority of us are going to have to do at some point, I guess, depending on what software we run. But for goodness sake, surely, Windows 10 wasn't this bad after, how many years? It's interesting. Some of our readers have noticed that after installing Windows 11 KB50486667 update for Windows 11 24H2, CPU performance isn't the same as before. That I can vouch for. We've seen reports from users saying their PCs run smoothly at first, but then after some time, the CPU starts slowing down. That's the thing in Windows in general. Yeah, that hasn't changed. I remember 311 for Workgroups days. Every so often you had to flush the system out, and I used to ghost it. So I'd use Ghost, build an image of your PC, put your DOS drivers in, put your CD-ROM drivers in put your DOS CD-ROM drivers, get your Windows up and running, install your apps, then ghost it, as we used to say. Make an image of that, and then just use it, and then that would save you having to reinstall the entire thing again and again and again. It's really interesting. And unfortunately, that's something I've got with running Windows on a particular PC. I'll have everything backed up on external drives, and I find that instead of mucking around with all the issues with Windows that accumulate over a period of 3 to 6 months, just reinstall everything. You could spend a couple of hours doing it, or you could spend God knows how long trying to bloody fix the problems. It's fascinating to me. Yes, now you may even find your games like Roblox and League of Legends stuttering, or your system feeling more sluggish than usual, especially if it's been running for a while since the last restart. We've also heard from people who say a simple reboot brings things back to normal, at least for a little while. Unfortunately, the problem tends to return after the system stays on for a bit. Oh, easy. Problem solved. Leave your computer switched off. But this is the same with all Windows stuff. I just, again, I find it fascinating. Whether it's Windows 10 or Windows 7 or going back to the Windows 3 on Mondays when Windows wouldn't flush the resources and, fascinating. There are suspicions that Windows might now be managing CPU power in a way that places your games or apps in low performance mode when they shouldn't be. We fear there's a problem with the CPU scheduler post Windows 11 KB504867 update. Yeah, if your machine is plugged into power, you should not be, putting things in a low performance mode. Especially if you're a gamer, you need every single ounce of performance. And this is why I keep, you look at the specs of a gaming PC and why is that one $3,000 and this one over here is $1,500 or $500? I say because the $500 one's for watching Netflix and browsing social media and whatever else, and the $3,000 ones for playing bloody games that are so memory and resource hungry it needs the power. Fascinating. If you're experiencing these issues, you might try rolling back to a previous Windows version, changing your power settings, or even using tools like Process Lasso. Yeah, rolling back to a previous version until October of next year, when you either have to pay for Windows 10 service packs or buy a new machine. Yes, or upgrade to Linux. To fix issues, here's what you can try doing. You can disable Fast Boot or adjust the way Windows handles CPU cores. Reinstall the update. Uninstall the update from Settings, Windows Update, Update History, Uninstall Update. Windows latest understands there is no one-size-fits-all solution for just yet and may take another official update or patch to fully resolve these slowdowns. For now, if performance is really important to you, you might consider holding off on this update, which I think might be a good idea. Again, it's up to yourself. There would be security things in there that are important, but I'd simply wait until the January update, if that being the case. If this is a December update that's causing issues, you can go into Windows, into the settings, and you can say, well, when would you like to run the update again? Well, run it in January, after New Year, something along those lines. Yes, here's a list of other problems. Highest CPU temperature by normal by about 4 or 5 degrees. No fix for slightly lower performance in 3D apps or games. Explorer options fly off screen when maximized. They're off exploring. Hooray. Yes, Netflix and Prime Video apps lagging and looping in full screen. That's very interesting. Yes, in a Feedback Hub post, and as I say, leave the link to the main article below the video so you can pop in and check out those embedded links, going for a bit of a deeper dive if you like. In a Feedback Hub post, one user flagged BSOD issues, the blue screen of death. Yes. Dear oh dear. Yes, the update broke my machine. After installing it, my machine would fail to boot with an inaccessible boot device stop error, and my second copy of Windows on this machine in a dual boot config also failed to start with a status of 0xC0E9002. An unexpected error has occurred prior to booting, one user noted. I found that disabling secure boot in the UEFI allowed Windows to start after entering my BitLocker recovery key. Yes, I thought secure boot was the whole point, that Windows 11 couldn't go onto a lot of these other machines. With the TPM, the TPM module, version 2. If you have one of those, it wouldn't take it. Now you can do a manual install, but that's interesting, isn't it? So if you've got a machine that can run Windows 11, disable one of the very main security features in order to get it to run. Why do I find that not surprising? Yes, and Windows Diagnostics automatically repaired the problem. Upon then Windows starting again, the update was rolled back and Windows now starts again. I have yet to test my second copy of Windows, which I will do shortly. The user added while explaining the KB5048667 26100-2605 in brackets update caused Windows to fail to start. Yes, Windows 11 24H2's long-standing issues, such as File Explorer's menu options not showing up correctly when the window is maximized. Yeah, that just amazes me, that. In addition, apps like Netflix and Amazon Prime have video playback problems. Yep, and of course questions. What about you? Do you have issues with the December 2024 patch? You know, you can comment the article below this for Windows latest, and you know, send a little message to Mayank Parmar, let him know, or you can leave a comment below this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, well, my name is David. Thanks for joining me for another Studio 64 Science, Space and Tech News update. I shall see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. If you're up for it, drop a comment down below the video, because I'd love to hear what you think. All right, take care, and as I always say, if you can't be good at it. And as I also always say,
my nipples are very sensitive.